Hello, this is Ken, and thank you for tuning in to the Model Building and Retirement channel. So in this episode, we're going to build out the 1932 Ford Roadster by Revell. Beautiful car. This was one of the Ollie's $12 specials during the holidays. Let's talk about it right after the intro.
Sponsored by Model Makers Workshop. Need parts for your next model project? Model Makers Workshop has you covered with the best aftermarket accessories around. And by Gaahleri, your one-stop shopping for all your airbrush needs.
Welcome back. Yeah, so this was a fun little build. Pretty fragile for my big fat fingers, but I was inspired on this build by the new Kaleido clear colors that came out, so I wanted to try a little different kind of paint job. So this was painted in Fusion Firm spray chrome with an airbrush and top coated with the Kaleido clear pink. Added some decals and then painted Kaleido clear varnish on top of that. Let's get into all that during the video here, and we'll do the unboxing and whatnot. So enjoy.
Okay, so we're going to do the unboxing of the Revell 1932 Ford Roadster. It says newly tooled parts on there. 1/25th scale. So let's open up and see what you get in the box. Okay, so you start out with some fender pieces, hood, various fender pieces, it looks like, firewall, radiator shroud, and all that stuff. Seats, floorboard, door panels, dashboard, a guitar. Got some nice looking wheels there, nice windshield. Okay, so you got your V8 engine. Got your frame, chassis. Exhaust, suspension parts, front disc brakes, dry shaft, miscellaneous pieces. Looks like a radiator fan shroud. And an extra chrome tree here. Looks like an engine dress-up kit. Okay, then you got your body. Definitely looks like a 32. Set of tires. You got wide tires in the back, narrow tires in the front. No name. Okay, some more interior pieces. More chrome tree parts. So you got your grille, headlights, side exhaust, and gas tank, and all that kind of stuff. You got your glass. And that's nice, thin, late model glass. Got your trusty old Revell directions. Okay, typical nice Revell directions. So you got your color codes here. You got a complete inventory of your parts by name and number. Nice, easy to follow instructions. Decal guide if you need it. Very cool. And then you got your decal sheet. So you got your options of a couple different things. You get colored flames, black flames, so red stripes, and gauges, seat belts, all kinds of cool stuff. A little bit of scroll work, pinstripe. Nice looking kit.
Okay, so I just took the car out for a little shakedown cruise, and I saw this car show on the golf course, and I thought, why not? It's a beautiful day. Let's pull on the course and show it off a little bit. So here we are. Of course, I packed my cooler and chair in the trunk there just in case. I'm always ready for a car show, right? So anyways, yeah, all about the paint job. Yeah, that's let me tell you the story on that. Well, first of all, there's the body prep. You got to take care of the body first. So when I got the kit, I took everything that was going to get painted externally on the body, and I washed it with Dawn dish soap. And I dried it really good. I like to blow dry my stuff, and then I put it in a dehydrator for about an hour or so at about 103 degrees, just to evaporate all the water, get rid of all the water spots or whatnot. There was very little mold lines on this. In fact, the only mold line there was right behind the back wheels here at the very bottom. There was a little bit of a mold line there, and a little bit right in front of the cowl where the chrome goes here in the engine compartment, just the face of that. Everything else was very smooth. So what I did is I just re-scribed my lines a little bit for my door panels or whatnot, and then I sanded everything down with 5/1000 Trizac because I wanted that to paint the bite very good. So yeah, that was the prep work. Now as far as the paint goes, so it was an experimental paint job. So I used the Fusion Firm liquid chrome. Now this is not that little brush on stuff that comes with the clear. This is the bigger bottle that comes, and it's airbrush ready, and it's intended for airbrush use. It does not come with clear and doesn't state whether it even works with clear. So let me kind of just explain that a little bit. So what I did is I took it to the spray booth. Okay, so for the first step on this paint job, I'm using the Fusion Firm liquid chrome spray right out of the bottle, no thinning at all. And I'm using the Gaahleri GHAZ 39 entry-level airbrush. Works great, .35 needle and nozzle combination, and about 18 to 20 psi pressure. And I am laying on just a nice medium to wet coat, and that will just level out just fine, and one coat only. So I'm going to go ahead and coat all the body parts, everything that's going to be painted either chrome or pink. We'll get this coat first. And then I let that set, and I let it set for about 3-4 days, and I never touched it once, not a single fingerprint. So I left it on the stand, and I left all the little pieces on the little skewers and stuff so that I would not handle them, because that Fusion Firm or any chrome is very susceptible to fingerprints. The longer it cures, the better, but you know, at 4 days, you can still leave a fingerprint in there. So I just left everything in a dust-free environment, like in a big Tupperware bowl. So anyways, there was zero prep other than I wiped it off with a little anti-static brush before I went on to spray the clear on there. So then for the color, that is the Kaleido new 12 color set, and it's the clear pink, translucent pink. Okay, so next step is to paint the clear Kaleido pink, and the chrome is not intended to be cleared over, at least the Fusion Firm liquid chrome for airbrush is not. So you will get a reaction with your paint. So to avoid that, I'm going extremely light. These are just little light dust coats, and what I'm doing is I'm creating a barrier with just paint pigment essentially without much thinner involved, and just building up several light coats. And you could do this minutes apart. It doesn't take long to dry when you're only spraying mist coats, but you probably need about 4 or 5 mist coats to create a barrier before you can go on wet. So this is the first coat here, dusting, and I'm not going to show all those coats, but it's done very similar. Okay, now we're onto the hood and the body. Now as far as those light coats go, it's hard to really explain, but bottom line is you're going to be looking at the part after you've given it that coat of paint, and as long as it doesn't show that it has a reaction would result in bubbling of the paint, pebbly texture, separation of the color, and the chrome being stained looking like it's being eaten. Those are all signs that you're going too wet and you're having a reaction, and if you do, you're most likely going to have to strip and start over again. But if you're doing very light coats and successfully to create that barrier, you should not see a reaction between each coat. It should just look like you're going on very light and very dry with your coats. Okay, so as we're approaching the end of that first coat, you'll notice that the coat is almost not even visible. It's just that light of a coat. It is just a little bit of pigment to create that barrier, and I'm going to repeat this 4 or 5 times. Okay, so at this stage we're about 4 or 5 coats into that very light dusting to create that barrier, and now that that barrier is in place, we can go ahead and get a little bit wetter with our paint. So this is the first of like about 3 medium wet coats. And incidentally, even though the clear coat can be sprayed directly out of the bottle with no thinning required, I did dilute that, so I'm about 80% paint and 20% thinner. And of that 20% thinner, I added about 10% of the retarder thinner to that, just to slow down the dry time a little bit. So this is quite thin. You do have to be careful not to run it. Okay, and then finally I'm at my third and final of the medium wet coat. So that color is laid on really nice now. So that's about 4 to 5 very light coats just to dust and create that barrier, and then 3 medium wet coats. And you just want to make sure it just doesn't mottle up on you or run. But as long as it's laying on and looks good through the reflection of the lights, you're just fine. So once done, I'm going to let this paint set up for about 24 hours before I go on to the decal step. So then I stopped again and let that cure for about 24 hours. And part of it was in the dehydrator. I think I went about 5 hours at 113 degrees, just to speed it up a little bit and make sure everything was good. Then I installed the decals, and I screwed up the kit decals, but luckily in my junk drawer I had these, and I think they were made for another 32 because they fit so perfectly. But I installed the wet decals here. Got some shots on video of that. Let them cure up for about 24 more hours, and then I went to the booth again and I shot the Kaleido Clear, and I went 4 coats of Kaleido Clear. So we're on the first of 3 coats of clear coat, actually 4. I did 4 coats because I really wanted to bury those decals. So this is Kaleido Clear Varnish, 18 to 20 psi pressure, and once again using the GHA D39 airbrush, 0.35 millimeter needle nozzle combination. And I did thin that again by about 20% with their thinner, and 10% of that thinner was the retarder thinner too. So all 4 of the coats were put on medium wet, and I allowed about 10 to 15 minutes between each coat to just flash up a little bit before I continued on. And I'll go ahead and fast forward a little bit here. Okay, so I'm on my 4th and final coat with my clear varnish, and normally I would do no more than 3 coats, but I really wanted to bury those decals. But another way to go about that would be you could do 2 to 3 coats, and you can let that all dry up for 24 hours and cure, and then you can wet sand it, and if you see any bumps between the decal and the rest of the finish, you know, you can go back and give it 2 more coats at that point. But this worked out extremely well. So the sanding, what I did is I waited about 24 hours again to cure, and I started out with a 5/1000 Trizac. And you got to be very careful because there's a lot of raised areas on this body, along the cowl area there, and right around the front of the edge of the fender, and around the wheel wells and whatnot. A lot of those areas are raised, and it's going to be very easy to sand your paint right through. So I really didn't sand on those at all. I just sanded on the flat areas, and got as close to the raised areas as I can. So I used 5/1000 Trizac all over the entire body. And then once I was done with that, and that was wet sanded, and then I went with 8/1000 Trizac, wet sanded, and did the entire body again, and again being clear of the high areas, or being off the high areas. And once I got that done, I went to 12/1000 mesh sandpaper and hit it one last time. And that actually leaves, you can almost leave the bottle in that condition because it has a polished look to it, more factory like of a car than probably the show car paint shine. And then I went with my Meguiar's plastics and a brand new little flannel cloth and buffed that the car out really good. And then on the high areas, I did buff, but I buffed very carefully, tried to get a little bit of friction going, but I was watching very carefully to make sure that I didn't cut through the paint, because you can still do that with just compound alone, because there is abrasive in there. Did the entire car in Plastex. And then one final time, I went with Meguiar's Ultimate Polish, and it gave it a brilliant finish, the finish that you see here. So that's how the paint work was done. It was really, really cool. Then I decided on the engine, I was going to just do the Chevy, because it comes with the Chevy engine, like they put in hot rods. And I was going to do the red block Chevy car, but then I decided that it would look good pink, or same color as the body. But I didn't want to wait for the chrome to cure again for another 4 days. So this time I was shooting exhaust and differential and all that stuff too. So I decided to shoot Kaleido gunmetal as a base. So it's like a darker gray silver kind of look. Very nice, and kind of got a metallic look to it. So shot that on there and let that cure overnight, and then I shot the Kaleido candy, and I was able to do just 2 nice wet coats the next day, because it was Kaleido on top of Kaleido. You didn't have that reaction like I did with the chrome. So it's a shade or two different than the body, but you really can't tell, because the engine's just a different. It's not part of the body anyways, right? I wouldn't have done it with a hood or something like that. That would be more noticeable, but that looked good. And then I went ahead and assembled the engine, and I got some clips of that.
Okay, so next up came the engine assembly, and I was able to assemble pretty much the entire motor, except for before you put the headers on there, you have to get it into the chassis first and then build around it a little bit. And I'm doing a wired ignition too, so that was the only difficulty I really had there. Is I built this out the best I can, installed the distributor and the wires, but could not actually wire the spark plugs in until after it was in the model and the headers were glued on. So I was able to do it, but it was a little bit more difficult. Not 100% positive if I had to do it that way, but that's the way the directions took me, and I kind of just followed along with that.
Took some more video, the chassis assembly. I pre-drilled the backs of the exhaust pipes a little bit, drilled them out and put some black Sharpie in there to give it sort of a carboned up look a little bit there. Glued all those into position, glued all the rest of the assembly together on the chassis. I didn't get all the details of that. Some of the suspension parts and that I didn't catch on video.
So next up, I turned my attention to the chassis, starting with the exhaust, and I drilled out the exhaust pipes, the tips there, and chrome those as well, and used a little black marker to put like a little bit of carbon inside the exhaust pipes there. And then I just proceeded to glue everything into the chassis.
And then, the interior, yeah. So I shot the interior with Kaleido's new buff matte color. Very nice color. It's a, extremely light tan looking color, as you see here. And what I did first is I flocked the carpet with it's a Christmas snow that I use for my model railroad setup for the holidays. So I sprinkled that on there just like you would flock, and then I sprayed that with the buff along with the interior parts. Did all that off camera and glued it all together. Now the dashboard, what I did there is the kit comes with decals for the gauge pods, so I put the decals on there, let that set up for about a couple hours, and then I used I used UV resin and a toothpick, and I added that resin to each one of the gauge pods until I had a little bit of a dome on them, and to kind of give it a look like a lens. And then I hit it with the UV light for about a minute, and very nice look. You probably saw it on the video there. It looks just like lenses on a gauge. So I got all that interior assembled, put together really nice, and then that slid right into the body without any issue at all. And I just put a couple dots of glue just to hold it in there. The windshield, okay, so with the windshield, what I did is I have these little clamps that look like tiny clothespins, if you will. I got a video of it. So what I did is I clamped them together, and then I used a toothpick and I used UV glue, not the resin, but the UV glue. I guess it's probably a variation of resin. But I took a couple dots of that while the glass was clamped into the frame and put a couple dots of that and then hit it with a little UV flashlight. And I have a link for all this stuff in my description of the video in case you want to check it out from Amazon. But after I got a couple dots of the UV glue into place and cured that into place, I just did that several more spots just to make sure it was firmly into place. And then right at that little point at the top of the cowl here, what I did is I drilled out the meat right in the point there where the windshield attaches to the cowl, and I took a 16th inch drill and 16th inch piano wire and drilled through there, super glued that into the bottom of the windshield, and then I drilled into the cowl area and put a little dot of super glue and affixed that down really nice and good, because I knew I was going to be taking this to like car shows and whatnot, and I didn't want to be knocking that windshield off because it'd be very easy to do if you didn't pin it. Of course, it would be able to pivot left and right, so I did address that. So after I pinned it down, what I did is just lined it up really good, and from the inside at the bottom of the windshield to the cowl area there, I put a little dot of UV glue, a couple dots right along the bottom of the windshield where it meets the cowl, and then I hit it with the UV flashlight, and that held it into place real good. And then I just went ahead and did the rest of the assembly. I did the wiring of the engine off camera. A few things that I did or added to the car is the rods that you see from the cowl running to the radiator support there. It didn't come with that, but I used my 32nd inch piano wire that I had, 2 pieces, and there were holes in the model for this, provisions for it. So I ran those little rods on there, and they're sort of like hood supports. In fact, when the hood's on there, you don't see them at all, but you can see them right now without the hood on there. And I think that gives it a cool look and a nice little support there. The taillights, I'll have a picture above here, but on the taillights, I lost the taillights. I don't know what happened to them, to be honest. But I recently built the Mobius Ford F250 4x4, and on that model kit, you get these little chrome cab lights that go above the roof, and I did not use them on the truck. So I saw them, and it's like, well, you know what? They look like teardrop lights. So I glued those to the back. I pinned them and glued them to the back of the car. And then after they were affixed, and I fixed the license plate there too, using the 32 Duval license plate, I then took some Kaleido or Tamiya clear red and a detail brush, and I painted the lenses a little bit red there. So I think it looks pretty good. I mean, I don't think you can tell that they don't belong on there. You know, they're custom parts. So it was a fun build. We'll kind of go through a little slideshow here, and I'll show you some other aspects of the car, and you know, from all different angles there. So enjoy that. But it was a joy to build. Very fragile, you know, for my big fat fingers. But I did have a good time building it. I'm in love with that color. The color is fragile. If you glue something and the glue breaks off, chances are it's going to peel all the way down to that chrome Fusion Firm paint. So be extremely careful there, you know, because again, that paint is not meant to be a base coat. It's meant to be a finish coat essentially. So, but if you're careful like I was, it worked out well. So yeah, let's take another look. I'll have a little slideshow going on here and show some different angles of the car and enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me.